One was the president of his Lutheran church who broke into homes through unlocked windows in suburban Kansas. The other was a drugged-out Satanist who broke into homes through unlocked windows in suburban California. Both terrorized America in the same decade. Both already won their first matchups in this series. Both now face elimination. Only one of them moves on. Tonight, Dennis Rader, the killer who called himself BTK, against Richard Ramirez, the killer Los Angeles called the Night Stalker. The Wildcard round continues. In episode 10, Dennis Rader defeated John Wayne Gacy by the narrowest possible margin, advancing because his invisibility was more dangerous than Gacy's volume. In episode 13, Richard Ramirez defeated Aileen Wuornos, advancing because his cruelty was deeper and his motivation was darker. Tonight, the patient stalker against the chaotic intruder. One of them is going home. Welcome back to Evil vs. Evil, Monsters of History. This is the Wildcard round. This is episode 22. Born in Pittsburgh, Kansas, in 1945, Dennis Lynn Rader was the eldest of 4 sons in a Lutheran middle-class household. His father was a Marine Corps veteran. His mother was a bookkeeper. He grew up in a small town, joined the Cub Scouts, attended church every Sunday, and excelled at almost nothing in particular. He was unremarkable by design. There was, however, something deeply wrong inside him. As a child, he became fixated on tying up dolls. As a teenager, he tortured small animals. As a young man, he stole women's underwear from clotheslines and wore them, taking photographs of himself in self-bondage poses. He served in the United States Air Force, was honorably discharged, and married a woman named Paula Dietz in 1971. They had 2 children. He was, by every visible measure, the most normal man on his block. He took a job at a company called ADT, installing residential security systems. He was, in other words, the man Wichita residents trusted to come into their homes and make them safe. In January of 1974, Dennis Rader broke into the home of the Otero family in Wichita. He killed the father, Joseph, by suffocating him with a plastic bag. He killed the mother, Julie, the same way. Then he hanged 2 of their children, 9-year-old Joseph Otero Jr. and 11-year-old Josephine Otero, side by side in the basement. He left a deliberately staged crime scene. He took small souvenirs, and then he went home to his pregnant wife and watched television. His own daughter would be born 6 months later. Over the next 17 years, Rader would murder 6 more people, mostly women, all in or near Wichita. He stalked victims for months. He let himself into their homes during the day when they were at work and waited in their closets for them to come home. He gave himself a name. He wrote letters to the police and the newspapers. BTK. Bind, torture, kill. After his last murder in 1991, he stopped. For 13 years, the BTK case went cold. Rader continued his ordinary life. He became compliance officer for the city of Park City, Kansas, where he enforced lawn mowing regulations. He was elected president of his Lutheran church. He led a Cub Scout troop. He celebrated his 30th wedding anniversary. In 2004, a new book was published about the BTK case. Rader, furious that the world had forgotten him, started writing again. He sent a floppy disk to the police asking whether it could be traced. The metadata on the disk pointed directly to the church computer he had used and identified the author as Dennis. He was arrested on February 25, 2005, sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences, and now sits in the El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas, where he will die. That was BTK, the killer who lived inside the costume of an American neighbor. Born in El Paso, Texas, in 1960, Ricardo Leyva Muñoz Ramirez was the youngest of 5 children of Mexican immigrants. His father was a railroad laborer prone to violent rages. His mother had been exposed to chemicals during her pregnancy at a boot factory. and Ricardo was born with epilepsy and a learning disability that made school nearly impossible. The defining trauma of his childhood was his older cousin Mike. Mike was a Special Forces veteran who had served 2 tours in Vietnam and had returned home with severe psychological damage and a collection of Polaroid photographs documenting atrocities he had committed against Vietnamese women. 12-year-old Ricardo spent hours with his cousin in his garage, listening to war stories and looking at the photographs. He was present in the same room when, in 1973, Mike shot and killed his own wife Jessie in front of him with a single round to the face. Ricardo watched her die. He never spoke about it for decades. He moved to Los Angeles as a teenager. He became a habitual drug user, particularly addicted to cocaine. He committed petty burglaries. And in 1984, at the age of 24, he began killing. For just over a year, between June 1984 and August 1985, Richard Ramirez terrorized the city of Los Angeles in a way no killer had ever managed before. He had no signature victim type. He killed men, women, the elderly, and children. His youngest victim was 9 years old. His oldest was 83. He attacked in white neighborhoods and black neighborhoods, in wealthy enclaves and working-class suburbs. He moved like fog, entering homes through unlocked windows in the middle of the night, killing one or both adult occupants, raping if there was a female present, then leaving as silently as he had arrived. He drew pentagrams on his victims, bodies in lipstick. He scrawled the words "Jack the Knife" on a wall in one home. He forced surviving victims to swear oaths to Satan before he left. He chose homes at random, often dozens of miles apart, with no discernible logic. Hardware stores in Southern California ran out of window locks. Gun sales tripled. The press named him the Night Stalker. He was finally caught on August 31st, 1985, when a Los Angeles newspaper published his mugshot from a prior arrest. He was recognized in an East Los Angeles convenience store, fled into a residential neighborhood, attempted to carjack a woman, and was beaten unconscious by neighborhood residents with a steel pipe before police could arrive. His trial became a circus. He flashed pentagrams drawn in his palm at the jury. He attracted dozens of female admirers who attended every day of court. He was convicted of 13 murders, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. He died of B-cell lymphoma on June 7, 2013, on death row in San Quentin, before any of his 13 death sentences could be carried out. That was Richard Ramirez, the killer who hunted in the dark with no pattern at all. Now let us put these 2 killers side by side in the Wildcard. Category 1, body count. BTK killed 10 people across 17 years. Ramirez killed 13 people in 14 months. The edge in raw numbers is Ramirez. The edge in killing rate per active month is overwhelmingly Ramirez. Category 2, method. BTK stalked his victims for months. He brought what he called hit kits in his car, neatly organized bags of zip ties and rope. He chose specific targets based on detailed preparation. Ramirez had no method. He chose homes by walking past them. He carried whatever weapon was at hand. He attacked any human being inside. The edge in pure terror generated by unpredictability is Ramirez. The edge in clinical premeditation is BTK. Category 3, geographic reach. BTK operated exclusively within Wichita and its suburbs, a single metropolitan area of roughly 500,000 people. Ramirez moved freely across Southern California and into the San Francisco Bay Area, a region of over 20 million people across 300 miles. The edge is Ramirez. Category 4, capacity for greater damage. This is the wildcard round category. BTK had already shown his ceiling. He had killed for 17 years, stopped on his own, and stayed stopped for 13 years, until vanity drew him back. If he had never resurfaced in 2004, he would have died a free man with 10 victims. His pattern was self-limiting. Ramirez had no ceiling. He was operating at full speed at the moment he was caught. Given another year of freedom, the body count likely doubles. Given another 5 years and a wider geographic spread, he becomes one of the most prolific killers in American history. The edge and unrealized capacity for damage is Ramirez, decisively. Category 5, pure terror generated. BTK terrified one city quietly across 2 decades. Ramirez triggered a regional panic that paralyzed Southern California for an entire summer. Locks sold out. Windows were nailed shut. People slept with shotguns. The edge is Ramirez. So the categories split 4-1 in favor of Ramirez. But categories do not capture everything. Here is the wildcard question. What if BTK had been given Ramirez's capability for sustained chaos? He could not have used it. His entire identity depended on the cover of normalcy. He needed church, wife, kids, lawn mowing, Cub Scouts. Without the suburban costume, he had no method. Now, what if Ramirez had been given BTK's gift for patient invisibility? He would have been the most dangerous serial killer in American history. He would have spread his attacks across the whole country, paced them across decades, and never been caught. The wildcard question reveals the truth. Ramirez's invisibility, if he had ever found it, would have been the end of an era for American policing. The verdict. Richard Ramirez advances. Dennis Rader is eliminated. The decision comes down to ceiling and trajectory. BTK had already done his worst. Ramirez was just getting started. In a tournament designed to find the figure capable of the most damage in human history, the killer who was killing faster than he could be tracked is the more dangerous of the two. But here is the part that should disturb you. Dennis Rader is still alive in his prison cell in Kansas. He receives fan mail. He grants interviews. He calmly recites the names of his victims in chronological order during depositions. Richard Ramirez died in a hospital bed at the age of 53. His death sentence is uncarried out, leaving behind a wife he had married in prison and a generation of true crime fans who had romanticized him into something almost theatrical. Neither killer was punished in any meaningful sense. Both got to live out their days inside the systems that had failed to stop them. BTK was the church president. Ramirez was the storm. Richard Ramirez moves on to the round of 16. Dennis Rader is eliminated from the bracket. Next episode, the political wild card begins. Caligula against Julius Caesar. Rome against Rome. 2 emperors, separated by a century, fight to advance.